Okay, so now I'm going to be doing, I already did the Lightroom tutorial, now I'm going to be doing the Photoshop tutorial. I use CS5. I typically edit in Lightroom, especially with lighting stuff. I really only use Photoshop for like in-depth sharpening, a couple other things, but cloning, but really not that much else. You know, if I need to clone somebody's head from one picture and put it in another picture because they're not smiling or their eyes are closed, but everybody else is good, I use Photoshop for that, obviously. Or, you know, with newborns, cloning for safety and stuff like that, I use it. But other than that, I stick to Lightroom. I find it quicker, easier. But for those of you that do use Photoshop, I'll do it in here to the best of my ability. I use actions. There is ways to manually adjust stuff over here, and masks and everything. You know, you can do all of your level exposures, you know, your curves, saturations and stuff like that there. I like actions. It's quicker, it's easier. So I have purchased some over time, and I've even made my own. What I have, though, I've categorized the ones that I typically used into two categories. My first category right here, RSP faves, Rachel's photography favorites. Yeah, it's real cool. Is these are all my Amelia Photoshop actions, or photography actions, I guess I should say. I'll post a link in this so you can access them. But these are all of her actions here. Her actions are awesome. They're simple, easy to use, and I highly recommend them. You can check out her photography page too. She is an awesome photographer. So what I would do here first, down here, I guess I should have explained this too. A couple of these are my four hens actions, and a couple of them are Florabella actions. These two here, the first two are my four hens that I've brought into my favorite category here. These three are Florabella actions. I'll put their links as well. But first, these are the light and the dark brush, because I want to go over the sky and make it a little bit darker, even though it really doesn't need it. It's already pretty dark. Because when I shot this, I did shoot it to where it looks like this. It might have even been a little bit darker. I shot at a low ISO and didn't use any flash. I do that on purpose. I don't favor flash photography. Not a hater, just typically not my style. I do have it for if I need it or if someone requests it, but I do not like to use it. I like the look of natural light and stuff like that. And again, let me say on this one, just like I said in the Lightroom video, this is not the only or the right way of doing it. This is just my way of doing it. So if you do it different, that's totally fine. That's what makes photography / art awesome, is that there are so many different styles and ways of doing things to achieve different looks. So first I'm going to go over here to my brush tool. Notice I clicked on the dark action over here. I want to make my brush size bigger, and this is the feather. It makes, you know, you can either make it harder so the brush is really solid, or have more of a feather so it's a softer look, and I'm going to do kind of right about here so it's kind of soft but not too soft, but definitely don't want it too hard either. So let me make it a little bigger just for the top, and I'm not going to go into normal detail like I would you know, if I were to be actually editing this image for, you know, my client or whatever. I would go more in depth in between their heads and stuff like that, and really get specific, you know, zoom in and get in between her hairs, because you need to do that. If not, you'll be able to see the difference. So I'm just going to kind of quickly go in here for now. So it might not look exactly like how when I edited it post-processing before, but this is going to be good enough for you to see what I'm doing and get a general feel for it. But like I said, you know, normally you'd want to zoom in and, you know, minimize it here, get all up in there. I'll do it a little bit in here, but not too much in detail, just enough. you know, in between the hand there, and I would really, you know, make it smaller and kind of do one of these deals where you really get up close and personal with their crevices, which sounds kind of creepy. Okay. Let me finish doing this. Da, 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 da. Now, because I'm going to brighten the entire image after I'm done with all this, I'm going to leave it kind of how it is right now, a little darker than I would normally want it. Say I wanted to change the opacity on that, this is where you do it, over here. So I'm going to leave it at about 60, which is what it was. I can change that later if I need to. And keep in mind I used a white brush. If you use black, that's going to erase it. So just like that. So see where I kind of went into the water here? I'm going to kind of erase over that because I don't want the dark to be painted onto the water. Let me go back to paint it on and make sure that line is kind of not too terribly visible. It won't be as noticeable once I get everything else done. I'm a huge merger after every action just because I find sometimes they have problems if I don't. So I merge after every action. Maybe not the best thing to do because sometimes if I mess up, I have to go and kind of sort of start all over or click undo 100 times. So, all right, so now I've done that part. I also want to go to kind of pop the colors a little bit and up the saturation. So my Amelia Photoshop Action Pop 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 does just what it says. It pops the color. I'm going to leave it at 100% first just to see the drastic change, and then if it's too much, we'll fix it afterwards, which is a good reason not to merge, so maybe I won't merge this time. Okay, so see, it's really drastic in this one because I just what I said. I'm not going to merge it. I'm going to leave it. Now I want to lighten up the entire image. If you do it manually, you can come over to adjustments and curves and do it that way, but I love my actions, so I'm going to use Lighten Up by My Amelia. As you can see, it lightened up the entire image. Unfortunately, since I was an idiot like I normally do, this is where if I wasn't doing a tutorial, it wouldn't matter, but since I am, it does matter. All right. I'm going to, normally what I would do if I hadn't have merged the first time and this wasn't a tutorial, I would go back to my light dark brushes and fix this so it's not so dark because I don't like it. It's too dark. But since I already merged, I'm just going to go use that action again, and I'm going to paint it on light. So it'll lighten it up. This is why I don't do tutorials. I don't think ahead of where I'm supposed to. I never do, as most of you who have met me know that. Alright, so let's just go kind of around the details there. Like I said, just kind of a basic, quick, not going to get into the details there. But as you can see, that brightened it up quite a bit. If that's too bright for you and you want to darken it, go ahead. I think it looks a little too fake that way. You know, the brighter it kind of looks a little bit more natural. Obviously, it's not completely natural. That pop is very colorful. If you think it's too dramatic for you, you can bring it down a little bit. I'm going to leave it up just for because, basically, it's more dramatic for it. I also want to give the water some more blue. So I'm going to run this My Amelia Pop action again. I'm going to leave it at 100 first, just to paint it on so you can see it really good. I'm just going to paint over quickly over the water. As you can see, it's turning blue. Normally, like I said before, you want to minimize your brush and go all up in here and make sure it all blends really good. That's obviously too blue. Looks very, very fake. Going to bring it down quite a bit. I'm just going to put it right about 40 for now. One thing I'm noticing about this image, right here, you see how it's still light, and you can kind of even see it right here. Had I not merged it, I would have gone back before to the dark brush that I had and painted it on right there and right here. But because I already merged it, I can't, and it's not a perfect image since I'm doing this quickly. So you just kind of get the idea. You want to blend everything good, you know, in their cracks here and their between their heads, their hands. Make sure it looks good blended here. Basically, normally I really like when images have a little bit of warmth to them. My Amelia's It's Getting Hot in Here action, which is a very clever name. I like to run that. I think it gives a very pretty, as you can see, if you take it off this eye here, you can see what it's like without it and with it. It gives it a very pretty warm feel. So I really like it. The lighten up is only at 62. That's the brightness of the picture. I personally like bright pictures. A lot of bright poppy colors. So I'm going to, it might be a little too bright. Leave it at like 70 for now. Now another action that I like to use, this is a pretty sharp image, so I don't really need to do this, but you know, for some of you are asking how I do things. I would run the that sharp right there, and make sure you're on the black with the white brush, and I go over just the family just to make them a little bit sharper. Let me make it a little bit bigger for you. Oh, that's too big. All right, so as you can see, that is what it looks like. I'm going to do the other image now, but I'm going to do that one very quick just to go, since it's basically the same stuff. And this image, I have to say, I already said it in my other tutorial, but I'll tell you in here too. If you can tell, you can see little halos around their head, because what happened is when I edited this image before straight out of camera, I needed to clean my Mac, so I went ahead and deleted all of my straight out of camera images off my computer. So all I had were the edited images that I'd already post-processed. So what I did was I edited this already edited photo and darkened it and made it look more what it looked like straight out of camera, so that I could kind of show you what I did. So I didn't really do it very good. That's why there's a little halo there, because I was just trying to hurry so I could show you this. But I shot this at a low ISO, and it was at sunset time, so it was dark. I did that on purpose so I could underexpose the sky, because I knew I was going to expose it post-processing a little bit better. First thing what I'm going to do, just like I did before, I'm going to go down to the Florabella action light dark. I'm not going to darken this a lot. I'll leave it dark for now, just so you can see the difference. I'm gonna fall asleep. Okay. Alright, and like I said, normally you want to get in down on these crevices. I'm not going to do it perfectly because for time, like I've said 857 times. Alright, so I'm going to probably not leave it that dark, maybe like 40, there we go, 43 sounds like a good number. Alright, I'm not going to merge this time. This is very dark compared to the last image. Before I got the camera that I have now, I would never recommend shooting this dark. Obviously, you need to shoot in RAW to edit this way, or else you're not going to be able to have the flexibility to do this with the images. So that's your first step. Obviously, shooting manual as well is a must, so you know how to expose your image to how you want to edit it post-processing. And once you get the handle of how you like to post-process your images, you'll kind of know what you want your straight out of camera image to look like. And this is a little bit darker than I would normally do, but I was kind of wanting to test how good the ISO was on my new camera, the 5D Mark III, and it is amazing. So this worked out fine for me. However, I used to have the 5D Mark II and the 70, and the 5D Mark II was pretty good and high ISO, but the 70 wasn't. So, you know, if you have a camera that is not good in ISO, your image is gonna be a lot more grainy than this. So just a heads up, you probably wouldn't want to shoot it this dark, but a little bit darker than normal is fine. All right, so let's go ahead and brighten this up with the My Amelia Lighten Up action. I'm gonna pop it to the highest because it's not really that bright still. the sky is looking too dark for me, so I'm going to lower it down to like 8, just so you can still see it. Now, so for those of you who don't want to buy an action or don't have any actions, obviously I recommend doing it. Speeds up your workflow, but say you want to brighten this manually. You can go to your adjustments and your curves. You can kind of just play around with it. If you bring it down, it changes a lot of things. So I don't want to do the contrast right yet. So I'm just going to kind of do one of those thingies. All right. Maybe I'm going to bring the dark back out just so you can see it a little bit more. I'm going to do the same thing with the pop action that I did in the other image and just go over it. Now, as you can see, that is ridiculously drastic and looks quite stupid if you ask me. So I'm going to bring it down. You might not even need it. The sky's already pretty good. That's at 0. That's at 0, so that's without using it. I personally wouldn't even use this for this one. The sky's already pretty good exposed. So, but just since I already have it on here, I'll just leave it at 3, which is not even worth it, but whatever. All right, same thing. I want to use the It's Getting Hot in Here image or action just to make it a little bit yellow. That's a little too yellow for my liking, so I'm going to bring it down a little bit. Image is still a little dark for what I would normally like. The contrasts are really deep in this already, so I wish I would have the original image so I could show you this a lot better. But yeah, that is probably around what I would have it look like. If I wanted to sharpen just my clients again, I would do the My Amelia That's Sharp Right There action and just sharpen them. But, like I said, since I did shoot this lower at a low ISO, it's going to be a little bit more grainy. Sometimes it might be nice to maybe pop a haze look in there. That's way too much. So sometimes it might not look good. Yeah, I don't like the haze on this, so I'm going to delete that. But you can do that if you feel it's a little too dark. You can add a haze action to it or something just to give it kind of a different look. But that is how I do it in Photoshop. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. I'd be happy to answer them. And hopefully this wasn't too ridiculously boring. Thanks.